And, John, let's ask you the $64,000 question this morning. That is the Iran deal. Are you comfortable with it?
I'm not, Joe, and I think there's bipartisan skepticism about it here on Capitol Hill. You've heard not only Republicans, but a number of Democrats speak about it already, and a lot of Democrats who are keeping their powder dry and going to listen, I think, to the discussion over the next several weeks. But I think at the moment there's just a lot of hesitancy, not only here on Capitol Hill, but around the country, as we learn more about the particulars of this and what was negotiated.
Well, you aren't in the no column yet, are you? Are you going to wait and see like Bob Corker?
I'm trying to keep an open mind about this, but it's very hard, Joe, as we learn more about it, about the concessions that were made, all the particulars of the agreement when it comes to inspections and verification. Of course, expanding this to include conventional weapons, lifting the embargo on conventional weapons and ballistic missiles is very problematic. I mean, this is a country that terrorizes the region already, and we're going to make it easier for them to do that by lifting the sanctions and giving them tens of billions of dollars to do it, in addition to now having access to the arms that would enable them to do that. So I'm approaching this with a high level of skepticism, but obviously I, like everybody else, I want to hear the discussion and allow the administration to make their argument and make their case, and they'll get the chance to do that in the hearings that are coming up.
Senator Mark Calpurnier, as you interact with administration officials in public and in private now, give us an example of 2 questions you will ask to learn more about the deal than you know now.
Well, I think, Mark, there's a lot of what exactly does this inspections regime consist of? For example, they say key nuclear facilities we'll have access to whenever we want to, but military sites, the kinds of places where they can conduct secret research, the understanding we have today is, at least, we'd have to give them 24-day notice in order to do that, and obviously that would give them an opportunity to hide things. And I think most people have, at least up here, one of the things going into this was we have to have anytime, anywhere inspection capability in this deal, and I don't think any of us, at least at this point, see that. So that would certainly be one question. And I think the question about lifting the arms embargo and what this entails for the region is going to be something that people are going to drill down on as well, because obviously that has enormous implications for Israel and our Arab allies, all of whom are extremely concerned about what this means.
Senator, you and others have voiced legitimate concerns about at least a couple of elements about this potential deal, one involving sanctions that you just mentioned, and the other having to do with the breakout period for Iran getting a nuclear weapon in 10 to 15 years when they're allowed to import more fissionable material. But if the deal goes down, is it not the case that the sanctions would be weakened immediately for Iran, thus allowing them to gain even more money more quickly than under the deal? And wouldn't Iran be able to start research and development on a nuclear weapon far earlier than if the deal progresses?
Well, I think, Mike, this deal makes them a nuclear threshold state. They continue to keep the centrifuges. They continue to do research, the advanced centrifuges and technology that they'll have access to going forward. And you got to remember, the Iranians play the long game. For us, we look at these things as a matter of years. They look at decades. And I think that, what we're encouraging today is creating a pathway for them to get to that nuclear capability. If we didn't have this deal, I would love to see the sanctions put back in place. I think they were very effective. We had brought that country to its knees. And if you read this agreement, much of the agreement, particularly in the second annex, of all the individuals, all the businesses, all the entities that are going to get sanctions relief, and the billions of dollars that's going to mean flowing into their economy, which can be turned around and used to fund Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis in Yemen and all these bad things that the Iranians are involved with today. So it's very concerning. I think we could have been in a much better place, and I think we still could, but obviously the choices are going to be somewhat limited based on what the administration agreed to.
Senator Thune, Michael Steele here. You just mentioned you think we can be in a much better place. Your colleague, Senator Chris Murphy, was just on a program in which he noted, again, Republicans simply don't acknowledge the legitimacy of diplomacy as a tool of American power. What is your response to that and other tones like that coming from some Democrats and others around the country about what Republicans would do with this deal?
Right. Well, I think part of that, Michael, goes back to when this thing started. I mean, most Republicans at the time, I think, would support did support keeping the sanctions in place, continuing to bring the regime to its knees. We had a noose that we were tightening around their necks, and I think it had been very effective, which is why they came to the table in the first place. I think that Republicans, like Democrats, very much believe in diplomacy as a tool to try and negotiate and get things done for the good of our country and its national security interests. But in this case, it's got to be strong diplomacy and strong leadership. And I think that opportunity may have been lost, that window may have closed because of where we are today. But clearly, I think we'd be in a much better place if the sanctions stayed in place and given us an opportunity to negotiate a much stronger deal, which would prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear capability. I think what most people today, notwithstanding what the president and his team are saying, realize is going to happen. I think the next president is going to have to manage nuclear proliferation in the Middle East, and that's essentially going to be the legacy of what this deal is.